What's good, guys? Welcome back to All About Arsenal, and today a bit of a fan discussion, and I really want to know what you guys think in the comments as well. Obviously, we know that Arsenal have been having issues when it comes to the left-hand side of our attack, namely Gabriel Martinelli, which is the main person. I don't really hear a lot of negative comments about Trossard, only when he starts a match and he doesn't have the intended effect we desired as a fan base. On the pre-season tour, Trossard looks sharper than Martinelli, but out of the two, it looks like if anybody's going to get sold, it's more likely going to be Trossard. And personally, I'll keep Trossard because I know that he's most likely to come off the bench and have a great impact on the game. The problem for me, the weakest link, I'm sorry to say, is Gabriel Martinelli. And I know a lot of us would agree with me. 2 seasons ago, he was phenomenal. I believe he scored about 15 goals in that season, and he was pretty much on par with Saka at the time. And I loved watching Arsenal at that particular season because a threat could come from either side of the flank. They were both as dangerous as each other. Ever since Martinelli had that sustained injury, he's never been the same as a player. And because he's not been the same, it means that left-hand side is weaker. I'm not sure because that's because of the instability we've had. Bearing in mind, when Granit Xhaka was playing on the left-hand side, he was consistent. So I believe that consistency was something that was helping Gabriel Martinelli at the time. As you know, that Saka's so good on his side because Odegaard always tends to drift on the right-hand side where they try and cook and make magic happen. But the same has not been happening for Gabriel Martinelli. But something needs to be done because we cannot enter this season in the same way and fashion as we did, especially that left-hand side being a glaring issue. So that's why it's so easy to defend against Arsenal, in my opinion, because you know all the attacks are going to come from where? To the right, the right-hand side. Odegaard is going to go there, try and see if he can play a ball between the lines. He can't. Try and find Saka. Saka will try and dribble in, try and, see if he can pull off a long-range shot on his left hand, on his left foot, which he normally does and tends to do a very good job at it. And if he doesn't, he passes back. Then what happens? We look for Ben White to try and make an overlap, try and get back to Ben White and see if we can cross something in the box. It's too predictable. And because it's too predictable, all of the opposition defense, they triple up on Saka at times, at least double. He's never left alone with one player because he will burn them. And we know that. So what's happening on that left-hand side? Gabriel Martinelli doesn't have a clue what is actually happening. So I was looking at a couple of other players, and obviously we've been linked with Rodrigo. At this moment in time, it's still unsure what he wants to do with his future. I think he'll be a wonderful addition to the Gunners, but the question is, how likely is that, And especially when we know that Liverpool have sold Luis Diaz. They've got about 65 million extra. So who knows, they can actually put in a bid for Rodrigo if all doesn't go well with Alexander Isak at the moment, which is another story. And I will try not to digress. So the issue is now, who can Arsenal realistically get? We're looking at Eberechi Eze, and I love this guy. He is a fan popular. He's popular with the pundits, fans. There's nobody that doesn't rate Eberechi Eze. He's now 26, 27, so he's entering into the prime of his career. We know that Crystal Palace have been downgraded from Europa League to Conference League. And at that age, and with the gift and talent he has, he's going to be desperate to move to a Premier League club. And as we know, he started off at Hale End at Arsenal. He was an Arsenal Academy graduate, let go, blah, blah, blah. That's all history. Now we're backing for him. His release clause has now lapsed. I don't think that's putting off Arsenal. I think they wanted to wait for it to lapse so they can see if they can make a possible deal outside of the release clause, which for Arsenal could probably be better. They might even be able to bid more, but be able to structure it to a deal that makes sense for them. Right. But a lot of people are saying if we do get Eze, he should realistically play in the central position because we are lacking in the central position. And we know because of that, we are struggling to beat low blocks because Martin Odegaard, he does need to evolve his play. And a lot of people say, Odegaard's not the same. And I kind of think besides his injury, teams that sit deep, he doesn't know how to unlock them. So he needs to upgrade his game. He needs to evolve his game as well. Eberechi Eze is perfect at that. So if we have him in the center, what happens on that left? Noni Madueke, yes, he can play on the left, but we know predominantly last season he was on the right. So a lot of people believe that he's back up for Bukayo Saka, which would make sense. So then we go back to the left again. What is actually happening on that left? Martinelli is not cutting it at all. And I believe changes need to be made expressly and soon as. So what do? What other options are there out there? Rodrigo, I personally feel he's probably out of our reach at this moment in time unless we make a very big sell, such as Gabriel Martinelli. We know that Bayern were interested in him, but now they have Luis Diaz. I don't really see that happening at this moment in time. So what do? So I was sitting back and I was thinking about players and I thought, how about Garnacho? And listen, I don't think we should buy this guy. No. What do you think about Garnacho as a loan? Loan move for Alejandro Garnacho. I was actually looking at his stats, right? And not too far off from Martinelli in a lot of ways. And I was quite surprised because I thought, you know what? He probably trumps out, or I was saying Martinelli, statistically, probably better than Garnacho. So obviously I was looking at some key stats, and the most important thing you could imagine I was looking at was dribbling, right? And let me have a look. And so we've got dribbles for Martinelli. He had 93 dribbles, and out of the 93, he was able to successfully complete 35. Garnacho had 81 and 32%. So stats-wise, about the same, or he's slightly better than Gabriel Martinelli. So when we look at crosses taken, he's taken 55 crosses and 15% success. Martinelli's had 90 crosses and 24%. So let's be honest, if we were to double Garnacho's numbers, he would be on 30%. So realistically, he's slightly better than Martinelli. Right. So those were the main things I was looking at. I know defensively, Martinelli might even be better. Or he's not even, check it. Defensively, Garnacho has had a total of 30 tackles. And Gabriel Martinelli's had 23. Garnacho's had 13 interceptions and 5 interceptions. And we know that Martinelli is good going back. So that's encouraging. But however, this is all caveated on the fact that Garnacho has had more starts than Martinelli, but he came on as a sub. So he's had 36 appearances. Out of the 36, he came on as a sub 13 times. Martinelli has had 33 appearances and came on off the bench 8 times. So there's a few things to take there. If you look at the XG, Garnacho has 7.33. Martinelli has 7.41. Martinelli's higher on XA, which is expected assists, right? Fine. One thing I did like about Garnacho's stats, and bearing in mind their appearances, so he's had 39 shots outside the box and 14. So he's had 39 in the box and 14 outside the box. Martinelli has had 28 shots in the box and 4 outside. So from this, you can see that Garnacho is a player that will try and score goals. He's more of a goal scoring threat than Martinelli, in my opinion. Right. I know a lot of people are going to might shout me down in the comments, say I'm talking absolute poppycock, but one of the things I like about Garnacho, he's unpredictable. He's a bit chaotic in his style of play. He's still got a bit of a flair. He's not afraid to take on his man, and he's unpredictable in his style of play. And I think that's what Arsenal lack. Arsenal have become too predictable. As I just described the whole scenario, when we play from the right, what Saka does with Odegaard and what Ben White does with the overlap is very predictable at the moment. Garnacho, you have to admit, he's a bit chaotic. He's a bit of a dark horse. He doesn't always do the things that you expect him to do. I think this guy's got a higher ceiling than Gabriel Martinelli. He's been very unsettled and he's been inconsistent, and I believe that's because changes of managers, him not getting along with Amorim. So obviously there's that little issue some people might say. How about his discipline as a player? And I think Garnacho is 21 years old. He's the type of guy, he needs a Ferguson type of figure. There's some football players, they are quite mature by themselves, and there's some football players, they need that fatherly figure to actually, patting him down, tell him, calm down, listen, what are you doing with your life at the moment in time? And he needs a bit of that pat on the back. He needs a bit of that arm hug, he needs a bit of that fatherly presence. And I think this guy could be a good player. That's just what I'm saying. Once again, I didn't say we should go and buy him. I said loan me for him. And another reason why I say that, looking at it from the financials, Martinelli's on 180k a week. Garnacho's on 50k, £50,000 a week. Arsenal are good, better negotiators than they were before. Can you imagine? Arsenal can go in for this guy and say, listen, Arsenal will take him for a long season loan, no option to buy, right? If we wanted to, option to buy, right? Arsenal will cover half of his wages to 25 grand a week. That's light work for Arsenal. that adds a little bit more depth, right? That brings a little bit more competition. And like I said, I think with the right guidance, with a bit of structure, because like I said, he can play all over the place at the moment. But sometimes I think Arsenal kind of need that at the moment. We're too rigid, right? And it's like, there's no flexibility in our play. And that goes me back, and that takes me back to Eze. Even if we get a player like Eze, he's a player that's expressive. He needs to be expressive. He cannot be kept in a box. So what do you guys think? Alejandro Garnacho on a season-long loan for Arsenal. Wouldn't cost us a lot, would be a bit of extra depth. And another thing, the guy wants to leave Man United. As we know, Amin wants to let him go. He's one of 6 players that was included. Rashford, he's at Barcelona. Sancho, he's one of the players he wants to go. And he wants to stay in the Premier League. He wants to play in the Premier League. So what do you think? And it's just out there. I know some people say, I'm chatting rubbish, that and the other. But if you've got a better idea of who we can get that's realistic, and why I say that, this could be an easy one for Arsenal because he wants to leave Man United, right? Man United want to let him go. Man United at this moment in time are not rivals with Arsenal like that, although we were in yesteryears, but it's not like that. We're not direct competition at the moment in time. They would let him go in a heartbeat. They would let him go. They will let him go. Option to buy, yeah, take the guy. But let me know what you think in the comments. Alejandro Garnacho on that left-hand side. Until the next time, peace.